Hey, what's up? Kevin Yates here, and I want to welcome you to my channel where I empower women to reconnect, rebuild, and reignite their relationships by taking back their power, by taking charge of their relationships and taking ownership of their lives. So today I want to talk to you about 7 warning signs that it's time to leave your relationship. Now, this is a tough one. It's never an easy decision. Whether you're married or in a relationship with a man, when he's become distant, he's disengaged, he's disconnected, he is just kind of, you're living with him, you're kind of roommates, but you're not really lovers, and it just, really the relationship is falling apart. And you reach that point where you've tried everything you could think of to get him to work with you to resolve your relationship problems, and he's just not doing it. And so, you're at that point where you're asking yourself, should I leave him? So I want to go over 7 warning signs that it's probably time to end the relationship. All right. So before we get started, click the like and the subscribe buttons below. And that way, when I post these videos every week, I do about 3 or 4 of them every week, you'll be notified and you can check them out. And if you haven't done so already, I've created a free video series. So if you are struggling with getting your man to stop fighting with you and to start working on fixing the problems in your relationship, if you want to know how to talk to him without it ending up in an argument, the best time to talk with him, when is the wrong time to talk with him, how to get him to open up and get him to work with you on fixing the relationship, then click the link in the description box below. It's a free video series. I think you'll get a lot out of it and it'll really help you. All right, so let's talk about now 7 warning signs that it's time to end your relationship. It's time to leave him. So number 1 is when you've lost his cooperation. And what I mean by that is, there's been these times where you just over and over, you have tried to talk with him about fixing the problems in your relationship. These are things that have been on your mind. They're really bothering you. They're things that are creating disconnection with you guys. It's to the point where your relationships just, instead of growing together, it's falling apart. He refuses to work on these issues, or every time you bring them up, it just blows up into a big argument. And, you feel like you can't even talk about it anymore. Maybe he says he'll work on some things, but he doesn't keep his word, or he just tells you that the problems are all your fault and, or it's all in your head and you need to get over it. That kind of stuff. So you've lost his cooperation. And, when you get to that point, it's really a lost cause, because a relationship, in order for a relationship to keep going and to be successful, it's got to grow, right? So, nobody wants to stay stuck in the same place, or being stuck in a place where you're constantly dealing with the same issues over and over. It's like, never being able to get over the past, because this stuff just keeps, coming up time and time again. And it just drains you and it wipes you out when you've got a partner who, a man who he's not on the same page with you. He's not committed to working on and resolving these issues in order to help the relationship grow. It's a lost cause, because if your relationship isn't growing, then it's dying. So, if you've lost his cooperation, it's probably a big red flag here that it's about time to leave. Okay, so number 2 is you're together, but you're alone. So what I'm talking about here is when he comes home, maybe, after work, and, he maybe just says hello, but then he goes and isolates himself, doesn't really want to talk with you, doesn't want to spend time with you or the kids if you have kids. He just kind of isolates himself. He's off in his own world. He's very distant. He's, not opening up. He doesn't communicate, with you. Maybe he's just spending his time watching TV while you take care of everything else. He's maybe on his phone a lot, checking email, on social media, or maybe just takes his work home with him. And he just really is like, you're just so disconnected and isolated that, even though you're together, and living together in this relationship together, you're still alone. It's like he's just kind of taking up space, but he's not contributing to the relationship. He's not really involved in it. He's not participating in it. So if that's been going on, and again, you bring it up and he's just not working on it, this is a big, big red flag. So again, for a relationship to work, it's a two-way street, right? There's two people involved here, and it has to grow. So it's like I was talking about, a relationship has to grow. You have to grow together. But, in order to do that, you've got to have time together. You have to be together. So you've got to, communicate together. You've got to connect with each other, and that's how you grow. And if you're not able to do that because, you're spending time, like your time together is really time alone. You're sitting in silence. You guys aren't really talking about anything really important. It's more just kind of superficial. Hey, how was your day? Oh, fine. Love you, talk to you later, that kind of stuff. But there's no real depth to it, right? It's just kind of like on the surface stuff. And, really, it's like you can feel that there's something there that's not being talked about, or maybe there's something within you that, you've tried to talk about it with him and you just can't. He's always off doing his own thing, or, doesn't want to be bothered with it, doesn't want to deal with it, and it's like you suffer in silence with it. It's in here, and you try to bottle it up, ignore it, you try to deny it, repress it, you try to disown it. You think that you just, it'll get better if you just kind of, with time, you'll move past it. But really, all that stuff that's bottled up in there, I always say it's doing push-ups, because it gets stronger. The more you try to ignore it, the more you try to push it away, it grows stronger until one day it comes out. And when it comes out, it usually will come out in ways that are very destructive, very harmful to the relationship. And that's where, arguments and resentments and anger and bitterness and all this nasty shit comes out between two people in a relationship and just rips a relationship apart. So it's kind of a good idea, not to let it get to that point. If you can't bring things up, if he's not willing to, again, spend time together with you and connect with you and, share with you and talk with you and tell you what's on his mind and what he's going through and all that, what do you really have in the relationship, right? All right, so the third thing is when you've lost your happiness, this is so important because there are so many women out there who stay with men for all kinds of reasons other than love and happiness. And so there's women that are in relationships, they're struggling in their relationships, they suffer in silence, I already talked about that, and they're so unhappy, unfulfilled, they feel unloved, they feel unappreciated, they feel unwanted, and they're so unhappy, but yet they stay in these relationships, out of fear. And I'll talk about that in a little bit, why, they stay in these relationships. But, if you're in a relationship where you are not happy, it doesn't make sense to stay that way. It doesn't make sense because the one goal that we all have in life, the one thing that we want, I should say, kind of our ultimate goal is to be happy. If we are stuck in relationships where we're really unhappy and that there's no way you're ever going to be happy with him, then why are you with him? Okay, so number 4 is if you've become his doormat. Okay, and so what I mean by that is that, when you're in a relationship and it's to the point where he is just, you give and you give and you give, and he takes and takes and takes, and he doesn't give anything back. It's to the point where his responsibilities are all pushed onto your lap. So, everything from, you are responsible for the relationship. You're the only one trying to work on fixing the problems in your relationship. He expects you to, take care of everything for him, cooking and cleaning and shopping and the kids, and and you're doing all of this stuff, and really he gets the final say in everything. He kind of determines the rules of the relationship, so to speak, and what goes and what doesn't go. So it really is just kind of all about him. And really, when you get to this place, it's just like you've become his doormat, because you're allowing him to walk all over you. And so, and really a relationship like that is a dictatorship. It's not a relationship because it's all one-sided. So, when you're in a dictatorship, you don't have a relationship. And if you don't have a relationship, and this is how things are going to be, and like I said before, he's not willing to change, he's not wanting to fix any problems, doesn't think that there's any problems, or it's all on you, it's time to go. Okay, so number 5 is if you've become his codependent rather than his lover. So what I mean by that is that, when the only time that he really is affectionate towards you, or he's nice to you, is when he wants something from you. If you're in a marriage or a relationship with him and it's really all about him, he needs you in order to have what he wants. And it's just all become about him. And, what happens there is that's all it is. It's all take and no give. So again, you don't really have a relationship. You've got a kind of a one-sided thing here where, you're kind of giving him what he wants. He's getting what he wants from you, but you're not getting what you want and need from him. And so if there's no reciprocity where both people are getting what they want, because both people should be in a relationship because they're both getting what they want, right? So, if it's just one-sided and all about him and you're not getting anything that you want and need, and that's not going to change, then it's time to leave. Okay, so now number 6, it's similar to number 5, but it's if you're staying in the relationship out of codependence rather than love. Okay, so this just kind of piggybacks on it, but if the reason why you're staying with him is anything other than because you're in love with him, and because you're happy with him, and if you're with him because of any other reason or reasons other than that, that's a big red flag, right? So here's what happens. A lot of times, and I said this earlier, that women will stay with men, they'll stay in marriages and relationships with men out of fear. That maybe, you might be afraid of being alone. You might be afraid of having to start all over again. You might be afraid of, or not sure how you'd make it financially. Like, if you left him, you wouldn't have enough money to make it on your own and support yourself. Or, maybe it's a security type issue. Sometimes, we can stay with partners and relationships out of what I call ourselves. That has to do with self-esteem, self-worth, self-love, self-acceptance, self-confidence, self-respect, self-worth, if I didn't say that already. But, that we kind of, we attach those feelings that are tied into those parts of ourselves to the other person. So that, if we left this person, then it's like we would be losing that. If I leave him, then, I'm not going to be able to find anyone else because I'm unlovable, or I don't deserve, to be happy, or, things like that, right? So there's a lot of other, reasons. Or sometimes, people stay with people because of the kids. Can't tell you how many times I hear women say that. If it wasn't for the kids, I would leave him. The only reason I'm staying with him is because of our kids. And guess what? If you're staying together because of the kids, keep one thing in mind. You might have both parents in the home, but those kids are learning from you. They're learning about what relationships are like, and what they learn is what they're going to seek out in their relationships as they get older. So if you're arguing and and getting into it all the time, or calling each other names, or if there's so much unhappiness in the home, there's no love, there's anger, bitterness, resentments. That's what they're learning relationships are like. And that's what they think, and that's what they'll end up seeking out. So, it does more harm than it does good to stay in a relationship for that reason. All right, and number 7 is, I already talked about this before, so I won't go too far into it again, but it really is because if you've lost yourself, okay? And so I talked about the 6 selves, right? If maybe you used to be strong and independent and confident, and now it's like, all this time has passed, and it's like you just wonder sometimes, what happened to me? Like where did I go? And you feel like you lost yourself. And because your whole now like existence and identity has become wrapped around him. So he doesn't want you to go out with friends anymore because he wants you to be there to take care of him and take care of the kids. But it's okay for him to go out and do his thing when he wants with his buddies, right? Or he expects you to have everything around the house done. He expects you to, take care of all of his needs and to wait on him all the time and to care for him. And in a way, it's just it's control, right? So he's really controlling you. And so the more, controlled you allow yourself to be, the more freedom and your sense of independence that you lose. And in the process is where you lose yourselves, the 6 selves. So, you lose your self-respect, your self-worth, your self-esteem, your self-confidence, your self-love, your self-acceptance. You start to lose all of that. Okay? And again, if you have kids, again, you got to consider this is what they're seeing, mom go through, and this is what they are kind of learning when I say that this is normal and this is how things are supposed to be in a relationship. So they're so much more likely to end up seeking out partners that will treat them that way, and where they'll lose themselves as well because they're seeing you go through that. So, it's time, that I say, if you're going through this and you're seeing any of these 7 warning signs that I just talked about here, it's time now to kind of end the cycle, right? Even if there's not kids in the home, for your sake, for your own happiness, and to get yourself back. This is about taking back your power. This is about taking ownership of your relationship, because it's not just him, it's you. You have 50% ownership in this relationship. So you've got to stand up, step up, and speak up for yourself and take that ownership of your 50%. And this is about really taking ownership of your life in the process. So I hope that some of this or all of this helped you in some way. I hope that this connected with you and gave you some insight, maybe some things to think about and consider. That, if any of these warning signs are present, you're going through it and it's not going to change, and you're not happy and you're not, feeling loved and fulfilled, it's probably time to leave. So I hope that this helped you. If you have any questions or comments, type them in down below. And again, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe buttons down here if you like this video, so that way when I post my future videos, you can watch those and be sure to check those out. And finally, if you haven't done so already, I have a free video series here. The link is in the description box. So if you want to know some ways that you can get your man to stop fighting with you and to start working with you on fixing the relationship and the problems in your relationship, click the link in the description box and check out my free video series. It'll really help you out. All right, so until next time, have faith, follow your heart, and trust yourself. Take care.